Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you are listening to the Element Podcast. What's happening, everybody? We're sitting here in Colorado. I can't tell you where. It's a secret spot, but I have got good company. We just finished eating an incredible meal, elk steaks, some salad, which you don't get on the mountain very often, and a couple of bags of potatoes, mashed potatoes that KC threw together. He's got a special mix. So currently I'm sitting here at a campfire with a couple of good friends, one of which is Matt Reagan, the other of which is Brennan Rhodes, and then the usual KC Smith here. We have a lot of big news to bring to you tonight. But man, what's going on right now?
Well, I don't have a pink chair, so that's cool.
Oh, I forgot to
You're
say.
in the pink chair.
I'm in the pink
Tyler's
chair.
in the pink chair.
It's a change of pace today. So
yeah,
I'm in the pink chair today, and I'm glad to have a chair. Period.
no kidding. I'm glad to have
fire.
a warm tuchus now. I was freezing it off earlier.
Yeah, we have got a bunch of spruce that's burning real quick right now. We'd like to have the oak from back in Texas right now, but we're making do, and you may hear us getting in and out of our chairs to grab more wood, but we have an elk story. We have several elk stories that we need to get to. First of all, KC and I have not we hadn't scored.
No.
But we came close.
We had a spike that just scared the ever-living daylights out of us. I was in the zone just whacking all kinds of trees, scraping and raking and bugling and doing everything, and completely zoned out and didn't see the spike at like 30 yards. And Tyler had to yell at me and tell me that it was there. And then I turned to see it. And
I couldn't see his head, so I didn't know he was a spike.
goodness.
I just knew he was coming into a bunch of racket we were making.
It would have been on like bing bong if he had a couple brow tines on it. So the rule in Colorado is it has to be a brow tine bull, which means 5 inches or more of brow tine, or a 4-point bull, so it means 4 points on one side. And the spike did not qualify for either. We called in a couple bulls that day, though, really.
Yeah.
There's another one that ran off. I saw his body, never saw his horns. And then we had a location bugle, contact bugle happen, and I guess he smelled us. We've been having some crazy winds up here this time around. It's been challenging, to say the least, but, there's still some pretty successful hunts happening. Brennan, what did y'all do your first day?
Our first day, we went in, and right off the bat, within an hour and a half of the hunt, we bumped a little herd of elk. Ended up running those up to some different hunters because muzzleloader season is still going on here in Colorado, and it actually ends tomorrow at sunset. But one of those guys, we pushed those elk up to them. One of them got a shot, evidently missed the bull, and we ended up
because it wasn't laying on the ground.
Because it wasn't laying on the ground. We ended up come to find out. We run into him a little later and talked to him about it, and he said he was pretty sure it was a clean miss. Couldn't find anything, but run into 2 or 3 more cows earlier before lunch, and then after lunch, me and Matt went down into the most intense canyon that I've ever been in, I think, or it felt like it, carrying the packs that we were carrying. I'm sure it gets a lot worse than that, but
going down is not really the issue.
Yeah,
Just coming back out.
You didn't escape unscathed, did you, Matt?
No, I didn't. Had a slight fall, twisted a knee, and it's kind of been a pain the rest of the stay here. So I'm hoping the next couple of days is going a lot better. I can actually get around on it and not limp around.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. Well, that wrapped up day 2.
Yeah.
Day 1.
By the way, I forgot to mention, Brennan is our first repeat guest.
Oh man!
So this is a special thing.
y'all are so blessed.
We are
dude.
absolutely
Blessed
blessed.
men here on the mountain.
hey, let's not wrap up day 1 without talking about a little bit of the rain.
Oh my gosh! Was that day 1? Oh, it was.
Yeah.
That was miserable.
Oh man! Well, we had like a great day. All of us did. We saw a bunch
Yep.
of elk, had a lot of encounters, and then an hour before dark, the rain blew in and didn't stop, and we had about a 2.25 mile trek back to the vehicle, and y'all
in the strong driving, consistent rain.
Yeah, ours was. We decided we were going to stay till dark and watch these meadows. Some guys that were muzzleloader hunting told us, they elk like to file up in those meadows at night. So we thought, well, we'll just sit till dark. Well, that might not have been the best idea. The fog rolled in, and next came the rain.
And it was cold.
It was very cold, and about a mile and 3/4 hike in the rain, trying to keep my GPS dry while we were getting out, and also trying to hurry up and get back to the road before the batteries run down in the GPS, so we knew where we were going. But yeah, it just all ended up in everything being wet.
Well, we talked about it too. It started raining, and at first it was pretty light, and we had decided, we didn't come up here to Colorado and buy elk tags to sit at camp. I've killed deer in the rain. Why couldn't we kill an elk in the rain? But we did get wet and very cold.
And didn't kill an elk in the rain.
Didn't kill an elk. No, we didn't.
Brendan's shoe is smoking right now.
I was just about to say, y'all better watch your feet.
You better watch it there, Tootsie.
I was waiting on mine to burn.
Yeah.
Good.
You
I
get
had
to
I had a
talking.
pair of Red Wing work boots one time. You know the ones that have the oil soles or blonde color or
Wild
whatever?
ones?
Yeah.
Yes, I had them things propped up on the side of a campfire one time, and that stuff just started running off. It was melting like lava. I had some interesting tread on the bottom of those things after that.
Mm-hmm.
But, so we came home, and, boy, we ate some chicken spaghetti that we made not in the cook tent. Right there, I was laying in my cot making chicken spaghetti, and it was a great night.
I was pretty helpful. I got the bowls ready
That's right.
after they'd already been brought in to the tent.
Brendan, I don't think Brendan did anything that night.
No.
No.
He did almost get out of his sleeping bag for that bear.
He did. I yelled his name 5 times because we thought there's a bear outside, and Brendan finally said,
Well, the first night, my air mattress has a slight leak in it, and
Slight.
I was laying on the ground by the time I woke up the next morning to go hunt.
In a puddle, right? Well, you weren't really wet, but there was a puddle underneath you.
Yeah, there was definitely a puddle underneath me. It was enough of a puddle to hold a good stand of crappie. But luckily Tyler brought another air mattress, so he saves my day.
There you go. Well, I guess you got a good night's sleep then and woke up wide-eyed and bushy-tailed for day 2.
Day 2,
Y'all
big
tell
day.
us about day 2.
Man, I tell you what, day 2 was, I can speak for myself, it was probably one of the greatest days of my life. We started out, Matt's knee was hurting, so we decided that we was going to take it slow, take it easy, and, try to walk some flatter ground. And we had an idea of where we was going to go, but the wind changed on us. And the wind up here is so frustrating. It's just every tree that you walk by, it changes. And so we changed our route. We went back into where we hunted during day 1, and me and Matt hit a little calling sequence. And I'm gonna let Matt tell part of the story.
He tells
Go
it
ahead,
good.
Matt.
He does.
We got to hear it firsthand.
The calling sequence was quite a dandy. So, the first day our tactics were really just, let's try to be as quiet as possible. And the problem with that is we kind of try to bring our whitetail hunting tactics up here, and that's really not how to do it. And we've heard from several people, that whenever the rut's coming on with elk, that the more noise you make, the better. They're not quiet animals unless they want to be. So we just decided, what, we're going, and really KC had told us, they had told us about their first day and how they had done all kinds of different call sequences with spike squeals and
Aggressive.
really aggressive locator calls. And so anyway, we thought, well, you know what, we're just gonna throw a bunch of stuff out there and see what happens. So we started out with a locator bugle, and me and Brennan were kind of sitting apart, and so I got my bugle out, and we're bugling at one another, and we both get limbs off the ground, and we're breaking limbs off of trees, and he's bugling at me, and I'm bugling at him, and really we were just trying to see how much noise we could make, and then I look over once, and Brennan's shaking a tree trying to get it to put one of the deadfalls, trying to get it to push over. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get me one. So I found me one, you know, about the size of a softball, and I finally worked it loose. And, man, we was just making all kinds of racket, you know. And 20 minutes goes by, and we thought, well, you know, we've probably scared everything off because nothing was coming in. So we got grouped back up, and we're talking, and Brennan's like, man, I really want to make a video like bugling, you know, just for the trip or whatever, if you don't mind taking a video of me with this camera. I said, okay. So he set up by the tree, and he did a short bugle, and he got done. He came back up, and we put the camera up. I thought, man, it's a good time for a package of crackers. So we opened up the backpacks, and we're standing there, and Brennan's kind of got his back downhill, and I'm facing downhill, and I mean, we're standing with arm's reach, you know, and we're sitting there eating a package of crackers. Well, I just happened to glance down through the timber about 85 yards, and first thing I see is horns. So I reached over and grabbed Brennan by the arm. I said, do not move. and I'm sure he could tell by the whites in my eyes that I could see something very interesting. Well, I didn't know at the minute that I'd seen it. I really thought that he had already spotted us, but he hadn't. It was a 6x6 bull, had slipped up in the trees. I mean, didn't make a noise. Well, by this time, Brennan had turned and seen him. We got down. My bow was out of reach. Brennan was right next to his. I told him, I said, grab your bow. So he gets it and moves up to a small tree there. And, you know, the elk, he works kind of across downhill from us, which luckily the wind had been blowing from the top of the slope down. And, I mean, just nothing more than God's grace, I guess. He changed the wind just right, and as the elk came by us downhill, he's about 60 yards out, and we couldn't get. I mean, he just wasn't paying us any attention. He was just trolling.
I even cow called to him, and I mean, he turned and looked, and that was it. I mean, he wasn't showing any interest.
So he eased on by us, you know, and we thought, wow, you know, that was awesome, you know, and we sure wish we'd have got a shot at him. Well, he moved off in the brush where we couldn't see him. And I thought, you know, Brennan was looking at me and I was looking at him, which we wasn't close enough to talk. So we were just kind of making sign language that we really didn't understand.
Through the shakes.
Well, you know, and I was sitting there thinking, you know, maybe we need to challenge bugling, you know. And I really wasn't sure. So I look over at Brennan, and I could tell by reading his lips, he said, should we challenge him? And whenever I seen that, I was like, yeah, let's try it. So I basically tried to blow the reed out of the end of our bugle tube. I blew on that call and tried to make him just do something. And, you know, at first we thought, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do because, I mean, we didn't see any movement. We couldn't tell where he went. So once again, we kind of got back together and we're sitting there whispering back and forth, what should we have done different? You know, maybe we should have called at him sooner, you know what. Well, about this time, there's a tree that is falling down in a fork of another tree. The sun was shining on it, and I just happened to catch it. I caught it out of the corner of my eye, seen it move. Well, it was way too big for a pine squirrel to be moving. So once again, I grabbed Brennan by the arm. I said, get your bow. And
what is Brennan paying attention to in all this? Because it seems like you see everything.
You know,
I'm watching. I'm watching.
He's watching. But, I mean, it really, I don't know what. I mean, it barely moved, and I just caught some movement, but I couldn't see him, and I didn't want to. By this time, I'd already gotten my bow ready.
Dude, I was watching our 6,
right?
Making sure there wasn't another one.
I had the 12, and he had the 6. So
y'all like Forrest and Bubba just leaned up back to back.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I just, I couldn't see the elk. All I saw was this limb move. So I thought, I know he's in there somewhere. He's moving. Well, when Brennan looked up, I could tell he made eye contact. I
seen the tines coming out of a draw.
Yeah. So, my hat's off to him. He took the initiative and jumped up and got behind a aspen there close by. And, I mean, just as soon as he got there and stood up, this bull comes up 40 yards, and steps up. I really think he was just trying to ease up downwind and try to figure out exactly what we were and what he was, was looking for, because he had no idea where we were at or what he was hearing. But I just remember looking up and seeing Brennan at full draw, and I look over at the elk, and all I can see is tan hide. And I thought, his life is over. Because at 40 yards, that's not a, we all shoot a lot, and I've shot with Brennan a whole lot, and I just knew. I had enough confidence in him. I knew once he got drawn back, this elk has seen his last days.
Oh, Brennan's got that, like, dead eye look, man, when he draws that bow back.
Yeah, so,
like, there ain't nothing in the world except for that pin.
No. So then he lets down, and I'm thinking, what was wrong with that shot? I mean, it looked perfect, So the bull he kind of steps forward, and he had a few limbs in his way, but he still had a small hole to shoot through, and Brennan whistles at him. He stops. And just about as soon as he stopped, he turned and looked at him, and he pulled the trigger. Well, I mean, immediately the bull, he runs and kind of goes right back down the trail he had come up and turned. And when he came in a lane downhill from us, he stops. Well, I started to draw my bow. I didn't know if he was going to need an assist or not. Well, he turns and runs. Well, then I looked at Brennan, and I said, you feel good about it? And he's like, man, I think I stroked him. And he said, I'm not sure, but I think I did. So I said, all right. I said, well, and about that time, after the elk had run off, we heard him. We heard him kind of bellowing and making some noises. I was like, well, man, they don't make noises like that when they're not injured, So anyway, I said, well, let's just calm down and sit here a minute, and we'll go see if we can find an arrow with some blood. I said, based off the blood, then we'll know if we need to go look now or if we need to wait for a while. Anyway, we looked around, couldn't find an arrow. Figured out where he was standing, couldn't find any blood right there. So after 10 or 15 minutes, Brennan said, well, I just, I want to go down to where he stopped.
Yeah, I had there was an aspen tree that he stopped at for just a split second, and I knew that if he was going to be, if I hit him, if I'd hit him good, there would be blood on the ground where he stopped.
Yeah. So I told Brennan, I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll stand up here, and you go down there where he stopped and see if you can find blood. And I said, I'll try to point you in the right direction. Well, I was still lollygagging around looking for this arrow that comes, little did I know was not there at the time. But so anyway, all of a sudden I just hear somebody yelling. And Brennan's going, Matt, where are you? I grab my bow, and I start, I'm thinking maybe this thing's injured, and he ain't got his bow with him. I don't know what's going on. But he is hollering and carrying on, and of course my knee's messed up. So I'm trying to run, and about that time I hit a limb on the ground and jam my knee up again. So I'm hopping on one foot, I'm coming. Well, then I see him, he clears a spruce tree, and he just I could see it on his face, he's like, I got him. I was like, where's he at? He's like, right down here, So man, we I hate to say it, but we had a little bit of a moment there.
Oh yeah,
outside the mountain, and
it was a dream come true.
I tell you what, it was for two beginner elk hunters. I feel like it was a textbook elk kill. We took what the good Lord had blessed us with and made the best out of it. So it was a day that I'll never forget. I know that.
I'll never forget walking. Whenever I walked down to that aspen tree where had to be, all I could remember is okay, he stopped at the big aspen with a big black spot on it, and I had that pointed out in my head. Of course, there was a gap there, so I had it all pinpointed in my head that whenever I went down there, there should be blood on the ground. Well, I walked up to the tree, and whenever I was fixing to look, once I got to the tree, I was fixing to look down to see if there was any blood. But before I looked down, I looked in the direction that he had run, and all I seen was a big old wad of just tan and brown and black neck and just tine sticking up. And I'm talking about I just almost melted into the ground. But
it's too cool.
It was definitely the hunt of a lifetime.
Man, that's I mean, we've talked about it. We got the rundown, pretty much what Matt just gave us. We got that right off the bat.
Brendan was too busy up visiting our neighbors telling them about it too.
Well, that's a different story in itself.
Yeah, but man, it's just been, for me, I don't have a tag in my pocket right now, and I was just so excited, man. it's just so cool, man, to be in camp when something like that. I mean, I've been elk hunting one time, and we didn't even come close to an elk. So, it was just to have one in camp and to look at and to see one up front, up close, and say like, that's how big it is. That's what that animal looks like. Is just an experience that I'll never forget either, man.
Yep. So you and I didn't have a very good day yesterday, really. I mean, we saw a lot of good country, a lot of good sign, walked our boots off, but didn't see much. And then to come back and see the stark contrast and what kind of day that Matt and Brendan had is pretty awesome, So we came back, and of course, there's a lot of jokes in elk camp, and they were playing a joke on us, of course. Supposedly, Brendan had killed a cow, and they also found a shed, which
shed.
doesn't really make a lot of sense because we're up on top. And red flag number 1 in my mind when we walk up. Red flag number 2 is Matt about squoze my hand off on the handshake when I told him congratulations.
That's the one. That's the word. Hold on. That is the word.
Squoze?
Yes. I keep thinking of that. I'm like, what is that one word that he uses? It's the past tense and it's wrong.
No, dude, that's right. You know what squoze means, Brendan?
Squoze.
Dude.
Squoze my hand.
Bushnell.
Oh my goodness. But so Matt
That's it.
squozed my hand about like he won a gold medal or something. So I was like, oh, this is cool. And so I walk up to that cook tent door, and I see the cape in there. I could see elk hide. And I was like, well, I guess Brendan.
It was cracked.
Wanted to save the hide.
I was
off that
behind
thing.
you. I could see.
Yeah. And then I was looking at that antler I could see. I was like, why is it stuck on that cape?
It's very
Why
brown.
is it brown? A shed wouldn't. A brown's, it doesn't last for long. And then I open the rest of the door and see the other one's going the opposite directions. Oh my gracious!
Yeah.
Killed a bull.
And to have to kill a bull like that for the very first one, I mean, golly, it still hasn't sunk in.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it, man.
Yeah,
I kind of
had a great bull.
Had a similar experience last year, and I think yours is a bigger bull than what mine was. It's like, golly, for public land OTC,
it don't get any better.
Can you get any
No.
better?
Yeah, man. I mean, you just take that every year, man.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
could have it.
For sure. Well, then we made us a bunch of chili that night.
Mhm.
It was good eating.
I ate too much
Brendan's-
because we had to go back out.
That's what we do. We eat too much up here. We just ate 10 pounds of elk meat. But ate chili, chatted with some Colorado locals who decided to come share a campfire. That was a good chat. Lasted about 2.5 hours. So we didn't get to go get the last pack out of meat. Now, we leave at like 10:30, 10:45.
That's probably 10:45 when y'all left.
Yeah. And Matt's knee's kind of bummed up, so we decided he could just stay here and try to heal that up.
Hey, there's 3 loads and 4 people.
I know.
So,
ain't no reason you go, right?
That's right.
We needed to go share the experience. So
That's right. We'd already made 2 loads before that.
Yeah.
And just so that everybody knows, I've always heard that packing an elk out was a lot of work. Well, that's an understatement.
yeah.
And it wasn't even a bad pack out. And
No.
it was still it's work. I
It
was
is.
sitting there thinking me and Matt was bringing the second load out. And I told Matt, I said, dude, I'd give anything for a horse with a saddle on it just to come riding by.
I promise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we went out and did that last load, and
Got back, and it was freezing cold.
golly, we were so chilly.
I was glad not to be wet. I'll tell you that.
My goodness.
But
My
I think
feet
we
were
thought
wet.
we was going to get wet for a second.
Hey, it rained a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit. While we was out there.
It did rain when we got to the elk, actually.
But made it back at 2 a.m.
No bears.
No bears to speak of. No lions. Nothing.
Except
And-
for we did hear some wild hogs.
Yeah, there were some wild hogs out there. No, we had a guy drive by today fishing for info, and he was like, "Man, I wish I was down in Texas hunting hogs instead." And we're like, "What is wrong with you? Don't do that. Stay here." But anyways,
Thanks for trying to relate.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's real nice of you, guy. Yeah, but slept in today, and boy, goodness gracious, that felt good.
Yeah, I didn't feel good when I woke up. My eyes just would not open. My body was awake. My
It's like a
eyes,
daily ordeal up here now.
dude, I'm telling you, I got like something. My eyes are swelling or something up here in this high altitude.
That's what it is, man. You just don't have that air pressure up here.
Yeah.
Barometric pressure low. Your eyes are about to
15,000 feet.
pop out. Yeah.
Yeah, we're up high, man.
What we camp at? What's 99.60? Isn't that what we're at right now?
Yeah, 98, 99.
I can't remember.
Just shy of 10.
Yeah.
When we packed that elk out last night, we started at 98.20, didn't we, or
I
something
think
like that?
so. Yeah. So not like high country, but definitely not low country either. It's all
It's not 410 feet like we come from.
No, it is not that.
The air is quite thin up here.
Yeah.
I know that first day we were setting up tents and stuff. Like I just like stood up too fast one time and about passed out.
Mhm.
You know, and I've done this a couple times, but you just as a flatlander, you just don't ever get used to it.
Has that?
Tyler, are you having a hard time with the
Dude,
stick?
I'm telling you, breaking a stick while sitting in a chair with a headset on is not easy. These things are molesting my hands.
Oh man, you know I had a hard time finding a good stick today. A raking stick is like a big deal. Like finding the right
yesterday
one.
you had a hard time. Today you found pretty
I
good.
found the right one. You got to find that aspen that's almost wrist thick. That fresh aspen that fell out of the tree.
Not too doty.
Not too doty, yeah. But, man, I'll get fired up on raking a tree, and I'll break sticks, and I'll have to just, like, it's part of my calling routine is looking for sticks. And then I trip, and it makes a lot of noise, and it sounds good. So I'm
You tripped today, too?
I tripped all over the place, everywhere, man, just like doing gymnastics. So we didn't hunt the first part of the day today. We chilled and went and got camp water and ate a good meal.
Organized. Yeah, it looks
camp.
good around here for sure.
Bathed up a little bit. Matt's got a solar shower, and it's worked okay. I mean, water was like 50 degrees as opposed to 38. So,
Yeah, I need a little more time in the sun.
Yeah.
We was all ready for a shower, and we jumped the gun probably by about 8 hours.
Probably.
On the
Well,
sun bag.
you know, I went over and felt of it when we got back, and it's back to freezing cold. So I don't know if it's ever going to make it up to hot.
I don't know
Tomorrow.
if it is either.
Yeah,
But-
it'd have to have pretty good. You'd have to just have it hanging. I mean, tomorrow it might, but I still.
But we're not gonna
it
be
was-
here.
No, it was when we left out in the early afternoon today. It was like 50, wasn't it?
52.
52.
Yeah. So it never got hot today. I mean, it felt warm in the sun, but it still is cool temperatures. That's elk temperature, man. So we all headed out to new places for both groups today. Tyler and I went and tried a place that I've never been, and then I sent Brennan and Matt to one of our little honey holes that we like to hunt up here, and y'all had a pretty good day today too, right?
Oh man,
Yeah, we did.
it was.
Came up screaming in the truck.
I mean, we didn't even have we come back and told the story, and I mean it's all, sharing stories. It's like, man, just get lucky and be at the right place at the right time. But we were definitely there today because we didn't get a half mile from the truck, and one of them cut out with a locate bugle, and me and Matt sat there for a second and tried to contemplate whether it was another hunter or if it was really an elk, and we sat there, trying to decide what we was going to do, which direction we was going to head, if we were going to try to approach it and try to get him to work, and then about that time he cut out again, and it was a lot further off, and we looked at each other and we both said, that's an elk, because there is no way a human could move that far or that fast, and so we decided to be aggressive. That's what KC's told us. We've talked to other seasoned elk hunters, and everybody always talks about being aggressive, and so me and Matt did that, and we tried to get close to him, and he kind of shut down. He wasn't making any more noise, and we got off in the timber with him, and wasn't sure where he was at. Well, we was getting ready to set up for a little calling sequence to see if we couldn't get him to answer back, and about that time we hear brush busting and hooves hitting the ground, and we just decided, man, evidently the wind did something weird, and maybe they got wind of us and busted them off. Well, we sat there, trying to decide what if we did, what we could have done differently. And about that 5-10 minutes later, we hear him locate again, and it was like, man, I mean, he probably moved 400 or 500 yards, so we decided, well, if he's still talking, we're going to chase him. And we got down in the dark timber with him, and we got it set up. And we decided, instead of bugling at him, we're going to cow call to him, because evidently it was a herd bull. He had cows with him, and I think we're coming on to the rut. I think they're fixing to get fired up, so we was just like, let's cow call. Maybe whenever they bust it off, maybe we can fool him and make him think that a cow got left back. And so that's what we did, and I cow called to him 2 or 3 times. Matt got set up with his bow and arrow, and about that, after I cow called 2 or 3 times, he cut loose, and I don't know if Matt was shaking as bad as I was, but I was shaking pretty bad. It was an
Oh, I
awesome
was just glad I had that chest strap on that
keep your heart intact.
on that pack to keep my heart inside because it was trying to jump out.
But whenever I cow called to him, those 2 or 3 times, whenever he bugled and answered back, I mean, I bet he wasn't 60 yards.
Oh, no.
He was just right out of sight, and I'm talking about like he felt close enough where it almost blew my hat off my head.
Make chills go up your spine.
Oh, it was awesome.
It's weird how like that it resonates in your chest, and like you can't. And I don't know, like they've made some pretty awesome elk films through, especially here recently, and you just cannot replicate that sound until you actually hear it in the woods. Whenever there's an elk at 40 yards and he's pointed at you and he bugles, like that just it shakes you a little bit. It's almost like an earthquake or something.
Well, it definitely shakes you up. Or it shook me up.
It shook me up too because I was a man holding the bow.
Well, I mean, and whenever he answered back, I gave him a few more cow calls, and I kept turning my head, cupping my hand, trying to make it sound like a cow, moving around without me having to move around very much because I knew he was close. But me and Matt was probably, 30 yards apart, and I was watching in the direction where that bugle come from. Well, about that time, I seen tines coming up through the spruce trees, and I'm talking about, I could tell he was a good, solid bull. And I was sitting there thinking in my head, like I wasn't for sure if Matt could see him or not yet. He wasn't like the bull that we had killed the day prior. Whenever he come in, it was all business, and so he wasn't trying to slip. We could hear him coming, without him bugling. We could hear him moving through the trees, and finally he come up. He was probably 40 yards from me, and Matt was we were staggered, but he was probably 10 or 15 yards closer. Well, after it was all said and done, Matt said he had him at 30. But whenever he come in, he stopped. He had it pinned down where we was calling from, and you could tell like he knew that he should be able to see the cow that he was hearing. And he stopped right there, and I bet he stood there for probably 3 or 4 minutes, just panning around, just looking for a cow. And I'm not an experienced elk hunter. I got completely lucky yesterday with
Hey, you've got a pretty good day's worth of experience.
Well, yeah. And,
Yeah.
But, I was sitting there thinking in my head, like, man, there's nothing else to do. Like, he's either going to present us with a shot or he's going to turn around and leave, because if I blow this call again, it's going to give it away like, this is a bogus deal, and he's going to leave and probably spook him out of there. Well, so I just sat and watched him, and I didn't know if Matt had a shot or not. And I kept waiting. I'm like, dude, it's in the wheelhouse for him, like Matt gets that bow drawed back at 30 yards. He drops the string. We're fixing to be packing another now. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting to hear that shot go off. Well, about 3 or 4 minutes later, he turned broadside and stood there for a minute, and we knew he had at least 5 on one side. It was hard to tell what he had, all the way across, but we know he at least had 5. I'm pretty sure he was a 6-by. But I can tell you this: he had giant welltails on his right side. But after he turned, he stood there for a minute, panned around for just a few seconds, and then he just eased off. Well, whenever he started to ease off, I was just like, man, I got to move, and, maybe I can call him back. So once he got behind some brush, I slipped over, and I got on the other side of Matt and further back. And I cow called to him, a few more times, and we sat there for a minute, and we never did see him again. Well, after we had decided that he had probably pressed on, well, I went up there and we discussed it, and was sitting there shaking like leaves and breathing hard. And, even though we didn't get the shot, it was just such an awesome experience, just seeing an animal like that and have him respond like that, because, it's not everybody can say that they had a bull come in there and just blow them away with a bugle. You know, I mean, it was just like some of the stuff you see on TV. It was just an amazing experience, and we were glad to have the opportunity.
Oh, I mean, I feel honored just to be able to tighten a string on a bull like that, you know, and I'd give anything to be able to pull the trigger on him. But it's just, you know, it's kind of hard to know where my story lines up with Brennan's because we weren't sitting there together. But when the first thing I saw were tines coming, and you know, when Brennan blew that cow call, and he bugled, and then soon after he cow called again, and he made this grunting noise I'd never heard an elk make before, and whenever I heard that, I thought, here he comes, you know. And so this is the time I was trying to keep my heart in my chest cavity, and when I saw tines coming, he was coming at a pretty high rate of speed. I mean, he wasn't running in, but I mean, he knew what he was doing, and he was coming in pretty hard. So as soon as I saw tines, I thought, you know, I need to get drawn back, because if I don't, I'm going to get so nervous that I won't be able to get my bow back, you know. So I went ahead and drew, and I had already picked out a hole exactly where he was coming in. I had a hole that his whole body would fit in, you know, and I'd already put my pin in, and I'd taken some ranges on some trees around there before we called, and I knew he was going to come in somewhere between 30 and 40 yards. So, you know, he gets there's a pretty big spruce there that he had to come past, and then just past the spruce was some really small aspens some little saplings that had come up. And just past that was the money shot. Well, he about the time his head got to the hole, he stopped. And at this point, I've already been drawn for 10, 15 seconds, and I just held there. I was like, all right, Lord, just help me hold this bow back. You know, I mean, by this time, my heart's beating, I'm shaking, I'm nervous. I didn't know how long I was going to have to hold it, but I soon found out almost a minute in, you know, my arms was getting tired, and he wasn't budging. You know, he was standing right there, and I could see I could see his vitals. You know, I could see where I needed to shoot, but there was too much trash between me and him, and that's something I'm not willing to do is Shanghai an arrow through some brush and you know, wound an elk that we may not ever find. And so anyway, you know, I really thought that he was going. I mean, 2 steps. If he'd have made 2 steps, he was in the danger zone. But,
would have been packing another.
That's right. So, and this one would have been a lot closer to the truck, so it would have been even better.
Y'all keep it up by tomorrow. Maybe you'll just kill one in the gravel, and we'll be load him up and back.
I told Brennan I'd really like to shoot one in the middle of the road up here, because that packing them out's for the birds. But no, I tell you what, I didn't think I could get any more excited than I was yesterday, and then we had another awesome hunt this afternoon, you know, and I'm just like, gosh, you know, man, we've just been blessed on this.
How does it get any better?
You know, and
I guess Matt smoking one tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you know we really think that, you know, these bulls, you can't pattern them, but the one pattern you can count on is you know, they go to feed at night, and then they drop back down in the canyon in the days, and we're going to try to stop his last visit to the canyon in the morning.
So you're going back after that same bull tomorrow, you think?
Yeah, I think we've you know, at first when we got to this new spot, we couldn't find any sign. I mean, there's a lot of free-ranging cattle up here, and we saw all kinds of sign from them, but as far as elk sign, it just wasn't there. Well, once we got to chasing this bull, he kind of led us to where the sign was, and there's a pretty definite area, strip of timber that those elk are traveling up and down, I guess, into the canyon, and he was headed up this evening, so we're just hoping that maybe he'll come back down tomorrow, and we're going to be there before daylight to try to intercept him.
We're going to get him.
I hope so, man.
I'm confident.
I'm ready for more elk backstrap steaks.
I guarantee you.
So the way we ran it out tonight was we came back. We actually beat y'all back, which is the first time in a while, and we didn't make ourselves very useful, but we did get the fire started again. And then Brennan sliced up some beautiful backstrap steaks for us, and we just enjoyed a while ago. And man, there just isn't much better in the world than pure, delicious elk
On the side of a mountain.
on the side of a mountain in a cast iron skillet.
Yep.
And don't forget the butter.
And the butter.
The butter.
And the thing about it is we still got 4 more days.
I know it.
Maybe
Yep.
5.
maybe 5.
Me and Tyler ain't got leaves early as y'all do.
Well, I got a wedding to be back to. If I don't, my wife's gonna skin me.
Yeah, well, some things are worth it, but no.
Yeah.
Easy.
Oh man, no, we'll get you home safe and sound. But so, as new elk hunters, I want y'all to know that y'all's experience is extraordinary.
Oh yeah.
But it's not that it's well deserved. Y'all have worked your butts off for it, you know.
Well, they're good hunters too. You
Yeah,
know, like
you know,
these
it
these guys are
translates.
in decent shape. They don't hog down, you know, and they
Except for while we're here, we all been hogging
Right.
crazy.
and take care of their bodies, and they can go out there and get after it a little bit deeper than most guys, and not to mention just the woodsmanship. You know, there's something to be said for
Yeah.
that, other than just tactics that you hear or read about. Just being able to understand animals and
Adjust. That's the big
adjust.
thing. is being able
Exactly.
to
Yeah. I
adjust
mean,
it.
that's in both those stories. You're talking about adjustments that are being made. You know.
So, with two guys who've had quick success, what have you learned that is different than the preconceived notion you had about elk hunting?
Well, I don't know. Like I've done a lot of reading, and a lot of the reading that you do. I mean, you don't know if these people are hunting private ranches or public land, or what's going on. But there's such a wide variety of opinion out there. Some people will be like, oh, you go hunt public land. They're so pressured elk.
Mm-hmm.
You hunt pressured elk. Calling at them isn't going to do you any good. They get called at so much. Well, I went elk hunting in 2008, and I kind of, from the things that I had read, I kind of followed suit. It was like, well, pressured elk, I'm not going to call at them. Well, on this trip, I think it's safe to say that me and Matt have figured out that is not the case, at least.
It's a fallacy in some sort, huh?
At least the herd elk we're hunting,
Yeah.
they are responding to the call. We're very confident that the bull that we were blessed to take yesterday was, we called that bull in, and then there was absolutely no doubt that the bull this evening, he was on fire for the call that we were throwing at him. But, I'd say as far as I go, I've learned that even though they are pressured elk, they will respond to a call, and calling aggressively can be beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say probably the biggest thing to me is, if you're like us and you're from Texas and you're used to hunting hogs and whitetails, you got to leave that mentality at home. I mean, there's some things that are the same. I mean, you got to watch your wind. Of course, it's very difficult up here because, like you said, every tree you walk past, we've almost used 2 bottles of wind checker because you have to check the wind so much.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's like we get a plan together based on the wind, and then 100 yards later, it's like, well,
It changes.
It's changing. It's like,
Yes.
well, what's your plan now? So we're constantly regrouping and trying to find out better ways to hunt and not push game that we don't want to push. And it's just a whole different style of hunting that we've kind of we know lots of people that do it or that have done it. My dad's elk hunted it when I was a kid. I mean, I remember him coming up here and elk hunting in Colorado several times, and so I've heard all the stories, and it's just different when you get up here and you do it yourself and you see how the animals react to what you're doing, and but like I say, that whitetail hunting mentality, you got to leave it at the house because that's not elk hunting. They respond differently. You can't just sit in a stand and wait on them. You got to put some dirt under your boots, and it's a moving game. I mean, you've just got to put lots of miles on your boots and try to find where the elk are moving. Try to find fresh sign, and and then just hope that all the cards come out like they need to be successful. And and luckily yesterday we were able to do that. And today we were playing cards, a 5-card game with a 4-card hand. We needed one more to line up, and it just didn't happen for us. But these elk have shown us that you got to work for it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back in there tomorrow and we're going to do everything that we know to do to make that shot happen.
Well, I don't know if you're asking me or not, but I'm kind of a newbie as well. Definitely a newbie. But one thing that I guess this is kind of a specific as far as being aggressive and as far as leaving like the whitetail tactics at home. Dude, there has been some times when we were walking through some habitat and I'm following you and I'm like, what are we doing right now? I'm like, dude, this is nuts. I feel like something's going to jump up and with a boo mask on and scare me so bad right now, like those big elk will do. And I'm just like, we need to stop and call. But the thing that I'm learning is that, yeah, I mean, you do have to eventually. You got to be careful and stuff like that. But you know, we're trying to find the right times to slow down, walk slow, and carefully. Try not to step on big sticks and stuff like that. And then there's other times.
Size 14.
Yeah, dude, that's been tough for me for sure. But we're trying to, you know, keep that in mind when we're in the thick stuff, when we're in the dark timber, and there's scat everywhere and rubs on every other tree and beds all up in there. We're seeing them. You know, it just feels like they're going to be right there. And you know, you kind of have to put all these different things that you've been doing throughout the day into mind as far as like, A, where you think they're going to be, B, how far could the elk have heard you from the last calling setup, you know, and if they
Which
weren't.
varies so much depending on how the wind's going and what kind of terrain you're in.
That's,
you know?
I mean, today is a completely different day than yesterday as far as that goes. But, you know, just being aggressive because the elk are a loud animal, you know, and it's funny because they'll take off running and it's like, you know, cartoon-esque.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like so loud that you think that it's been, you know, done in Hollywood almost. And then, you know, like Brennan was saying, bull, and with the spike that we had, it's like Ghost. You all of a sudden look over, it's like a horror movie, and the dead person's standing there, like, you know, looking at you, and you didn't realize that person was over your shoulder the whole time. You know, like just scary, and how quiet they can be sometimes if they want to. And but I mean, for me, like the you know, if I was walking through, I don't know, the whitetail aspect is to sit and wait for them to come to you in a stand. And so when I'm walking around, like my mentality is like, you know, I know we got to walk to the next spot and I know we got to do this and that, but like once we get into that habitat or where they've been bedding like crazy, and are we going to really keep pushing into this thing? And you just have to, because you got to cover country because it's high pressure hunting here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of part of the thing. Like, you know, we keep going back to the contrast of whitetail to elk. And I'm by no means an expert or really experienced. You know, this is my fourth elk hunt. I killed one bull. It's not like a big deal. And I'm learning every day. And one of the things that's really sticking out to me now is that whitetails are consistent in where they live. Like, if you have whitetail habitat and, you know, low enough pressure, they're going to live there. Elk, we can walk through an area that just looks straight up baller. I mean, just as good as elk country can get. There's not elk there that day. They move.
Right.
You know, like
nomadic.
they might be 2 miles from there that day. And there's all this sign they've laid down in the past and, you know, trees that are still green that, you know, they've rubbed on or whatever, but they're nowhere to be found. And you have to just, I guess it's kind of a, you know, that hunter's intuition, but you got to kind of get the feel for that. Like when you're in one of those places where, hey, this is elky, but not today kind of thing versus, you know, hey, we're about to get it done right here.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, we've been sitting there scouting public parcels and I was even talking to you about a private spot today, but like you start realizing that if you can find out where a whitetail's bedding, like, it changed the game for you because you know he's going to be there in and out every day until something weird happens, you know. Especially around here,
and
around
today
Texas.
How many elk beds we find? You know,
oh my gosh,
like,
with hair all in them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they've been used recently,
but
and they just weren't there. And we were pushing slow. I mean, into the wind. We had a good wind today, which was about the first day we've had a good wind for us. and yeah, they. I don't think it was that we were spooking them at all. You know, we weren't hearing them run out. We were quiet. We were working into the wind, and they just weren't there.
Me and Matt, the first day, our first hunt out, we of course we bumped a herd of elk. We rounded the corner and they were just there, and then like Tyler had said, whenever they take off, it's just like I think they would run through the side of a truck and keep going. And the next little group of elk we seen I think it was two cows and a calf, and me and Matt kind of had a mentality change after that experience, because just like the other guys were talking about, like me and Matt, we grew up like our whole lives hunting whitetails in East Texas, and that's just what we know. And then being new to this game, you come up here hunting and you kind of like bring that mentality with you. Well, whenever we come across those elk, they didn't know we were there. They didn't know anything was going on, and we sat and watched them, and we kind of did what you would do in the whitetail woods. We just kind of like hunkered down and just see how they'd move. Maybe they would move over to us, and if they don't, well, you just didn't get the opportunity. And after we had that experience, we both like just sat there, and I'm sure we probably took a breather, got a drink of water, and ate some crackers. And
Y'all like them crackers?
We eat a lot of crackers.
But are we talking standard saltines, or is there peanut butter in milk?
Oh no, there's peanut butter in the middle of
Oh
these.
yeah,
That's good stuff.
But I told we both agreed, like if we get that opportunity again, I mean we're only up here for, we're gonna hunt 7 days, and this isn't a resident deal, and so if we get that opportunity again, like we got to be aggressive. And I'm not talking about, just try to run up there and get a shot, but, try to close the gap and be smart about it and just be aggressive in the smart way. And so, I mean, it's been a big learning curve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another thing, public land across the board, whether it's in Colorado or Texas or whatever, if you're hunting aggressive and you bump something, the beauty of it is, in a lot of cases, you got a lot more land to go see, especially when you start talking about mountain country like this, I mean, there's how many elk are up here, I mean, you just can't even imagine. And I think if that's another reason to be aggressive. You bump it. Brennan shoots a bull yesterday that we're like, that's got to be one of the biggest ones on the, and then today y'all see one that's just as big,
Yeah. Well, and it, like our first elk encounter was that little herd where, we were being careful, and it was like the first hour and a half of our Colorado hunting experience for 2017. We run across a herd of what, probably, we just guessing 15 head of elk, and we got pretty down about it, bumping them, but we both just, discussed it, and we was just like, we're probably going to bump more elk than we don't. And so you just got to get over it, just keep being aggressive and being smart and moving on.
There's no telling how many you bump that you don't know about.
Yeah, we were
I'm
talking about
sure.
that earlier. How many bulls do we call in and never see because they circle downwind 100 yards, and you're in that thick, dark timber and you can't see anything.
Yep.
So out of y'all's hunting, there's a couple different terrains we have up here. What have y'all decided that's kind of like what you like to hunt, or at least where the elk are right now?
For me, I really think you've kind of got a transition area. You've got some of this stuff it's not flat by any means, but it's just a lot slower slopes. And then you've got the canyon. Well, the canyon is a doozy. I mean, the canyon is
That's
one of those
that knee.
you almost need all fours at times to just ease down the canyon. But there's an area kind of between that flatter area and the canyon. It's almost like a shelf that runs around the perimeter, and And it happens to be where Brennan killed his elk yesterday. And I really think, after we went in the canyon and we got to really see what's down there, there's elk sign everywhere. But not only are there trails running up and down, coming in and out of the canyon, but there's also trails running, I guess you'd say laterally, along the canyon, just at a different elevation. And it's almost like they know they're not pressured down there, so they just drop down, maybe halfway between the top and the bottom, and they just, I don't know, it seems like to me like we saw lots and lots of sign, lots of rubs, so the bulls are down there. After we got through with Brennan's bull yesterday and got back to camp, we pulled our topo maps out, and we're just kind of looking like, where did he come from? And we were actually hunting on the edge of the canyon. If he'd have made it another 100 yards, whenever Brendan shot that bull, he'd have ended up in the canyon.
Thank the good Lord he didn't.
Oh, my goodness.
I promise, because just getting your own butt out of there is hard enough, without having to put a 60-pound front quarter on your back and coming out. So, I don't know. My opinion may change by the end of the week, but I just feel like that middle ground between that canyon and the top, where they don't get a lot of pressure, I feel like that's probably going to be maybe one of your hotter spots to hunt.
Yeah, you think that's consistent throughout the year, no matter what the elk are doing, kind of?
I think so, and like I say, I would have to do probably a lot more hunting and to see how that turns out. But just based off the tracks and all the sign we're seeing, the majority of the sign that we saw on that eastern side, which we only hunted there 2 days, but that's where looks like a lot of the activity's happening. And then of course today, we're not but 5 or 6 miles away, but it's a completely different terrain. Where we're hunting today was quite a bit flatter than what we hunted the first 2 days, which I'm trying to get this knee to get back on.
Nice change of pace, huh?
Yeah, I was trying to get my knee a break, and that way maybe the last couple of days, if something doesn't pan out for us, and maybe we'll end up in the canyon again. We don't know, but either way, it's been a hunt of a lifetime. We've both had an amazing hunt already. Just 3 days in, and as the rut is up on us, and as we're seeing bulls turn on and bugle, and I could see it getting better and better until we leave. So we have high hopes that there will be another arrow flung this week, and hopefully makes contact in the right spot.
Ow, that was hot.
Yeah, I know it, dude. Things are jumping.
Tomorrow marks 1 year exactly since I killed my bull last year. So September 17th might be a good day again.
There you go.
That would be awesome.
We're going to go revisit.
Yeah, we're going to actually tomorrow. You and I are going to go back to where I killed my bull last year.
It's only the right thing to do.
I know, man.
Boneyard.
That's where we saw, where we called in those bulls the other day too, and that rainstorm came, kind of had to cut it short, and it worked out to where we didn't really burn that place up much at all, and hopefully go back in there tomorrow and get a little aggressive and call 1 or 2 or 12 in. And
yeah.
Maybe have her pick a litter.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know, if you've never elk hunted, one thing that I've kind of noticed is that there's definitely spots that I think year after year, are going to pretty consistently produce good enough habitat and safety for elk that when you go in there, you're going to be like, yeah, we're going to see elk most of the time. But they're, like for me, looking at it, I'm like thinking about like, what if I had to go do this on my own? And it's kind of encouraging to know that like it's not like the spots are there and the locals have their spots and stuff like that, and they always will. But there are, like, you can count on this, that if there is a place that is hard for a human to get to, there's probably going to be elk there. So, like Casey and I, we haven't had a whole lot of luck since that first day, but we have seen some pretty ridiculous elk sign. And I think that's just because we have really just grinded it out and, gone way back, or gone, into the steep canyon where nobody wants to go, like you guys, have experienced too. And I don't think it's so much the spot as it is just finding where the hunters aren't year in and year out. And I mean, I guess that technically turns out to be a spot, but there are a lot of them. It's not like you go to a unit and there's 2 spots where you're going to kill elk. I mean, you can be looking at a trailhead like we were today that was full of 4-wheelers and trucks, and just think a little bit outside the box and be willing to sweat a little bit harder, and you can find, at least in our case, elk sign, but fresh elk sign. I mean, we saw tracks that were since the rain,
That elk sign eats good too.
Yeah, it doesn't eat nearly as good as the elk in the tent up there.
But there's something to be said for that. Like, we haven't had as good a hunt as these 2 guys, but nobody does. Y'all have had just extraordinary luck, and I've had a great time as it is. And I think persistence is key on that deal. Like not feeling like, well, man, we just aren't getting the right spots. Let's just go, hang a tree stand or something and just wait on one to come by. Maybe it'll happen. Just putting, like Matt said, put dirt under your boots and go, and sooner or later you'll run up on the right bull at the right time. And as long as you're doing everything else right all the time, you might not kill him that day, but the next day you might have that opportunity.
Yeah. So going forward, next year and then years after in the future, you guys plan on doing this again, or what are you thinking?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Lord willing.
Yep.
You got to stop saying hunt of a lifetime then, because it's a hunt of the year next year.
Well, I can assure you
So
this,
far.
like I could only hope that I could, do again what we did on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's going to be definitely hard to top.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's going to hook you, and you're going to be like, the next 5 years, you're going to be like, man, this stinks. This is no good.
That does not mean that I will not make the attempt, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that, even in my young success that I've had, like, I may or may not kill an animal this year, and it definitely probably won't be as big as a bull I killed last year, but it's the whole, and I've been talking to Tyler about this a lot, like the elk camp experience, like coming back here, sitting around a campfire, or sitting cold as all get out in the tent when it rains or whatever, and sitting around laughing, calling you Wilbur the pig, and things like that. Just like, that's what you top it every year. Every year in elk camp is a new experience, and it's a blast.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to be in a place that's so pristine and so beautiful, and creation is evident everywhere, and to share that with good friends, like, you can't top that, but every year you get to experience that thing that's so good. It's almost like killing your bull every year on the first day.
Exactly.
Except, you're just sharing that camaraderie, and that's a kind of a cliche thing to say, but it's true if you get out there and do it. Like, anybody who's ever shared a camp with close friends understands that. Like, it's so much more than the hunt.
It's just coming back to the campfire and eating good food and just getting to talk about, share the experience for the day.
I love hearing y'all's stories when we get home.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you get to go on 2 hunts, because you come home and like you're just living this movie in your mind while y'all are talking about all these things.
Well, and then like we went in last night. We ate supper. Shared a campfire with some people. That come down from a different camp, and had good conversation. And then after that, we went in late at night and packed another load out. And even though it's hard work, just the whole experience in itself, even packing out was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even on the way out, we were dog tired. At this one point, we were going across this big park, as they call it, and we basically just we're like, okay, let's take a break, and we all fell out on this like little knoll,
Straight on the back.
Yeah, and and we just cut our headlamps for a couple minutes, and like, you have never seen a starry sky like that, man, and it was just pitch black, no moon up, and I mean, you can't see your hand in front of your face, and that's just kind of cool. You don't get that in our modern society very often. It's hard to find.
Yeah, you don't get that even for the most part, like going deer hunting back home.
Yeah.
Because
Street lights.
it's like, hey, I'm going to take off early from work today. Let's go hunt.
Right.
It's not. You don't get the whole get away, turn your phone off. We don't even have a lantern. Part of that's because we're dumb and didn't bring one. But like these commodities that we're used to
We
day
got
in,
our
day
coffee,
out.
but we ain't
Well,
got
that's
a
right,
lantern.
dude. We got coffee a couple times a day. That's can't forget that. But whenever you really get unplugged, it's a different experience altogether than
sure.
just going hunting.
And just like KC said, just everywhere you look, creation is definitely evident.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw some vistas today.
No kidding, man.
There's
new snow on the mountains, on the horizon. Yeah, I guess that rain that came through turned into snow up there on those 14ers that you can see from here, and it's just beautiful to see. As far as your eyes can view, there are just ragged mountains. To the east at least from where we're at here. That you can
I can't
see.
get over the aspens.
Oh,
Yeah,
me neither.
How
cool.
yellow they are.
I take
right
a
now.
picture every
Gosh.
time KC walks in to a grove of aspens. I'm behind him, and I'm like taking pictures the whole time. And you can't fit the scene into the picture. You just can't ever get it to turn out like what you saw. Like it's one of those things. I'll probably have said this on the podcast before, and I'll say it forever. But there's just some things in life that you can't capture with a video camera or still picture camera.
That's why you got to get out there and live it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it's our job to share our experiences with other people and to maybe help people who'd never see this appreciate it. But at the same time, like if you don't get out there and live it and experience these things for yourself, there's no way you can truly comprehend the awesomeness of
the
it.
size of the elk, the size of the mountains,
Yeah,
the size of the
you walked up
aspens.
on that carcass yesterday, and I could tell. Tell us about that.
I was shocked. I don't know. I've seen elk horns. A lot of people have. But there's not a lot of guys out there like showing off their carcasses and stuff, So I walked up on that when we got down there last night. We finally got in there and walked up on that carcass. And, it's just basically like a base of a neck and big old rib cage. That's about it. And it was just, there was no hair on it. Like the skin and the fat and the hair like take up several inches on each side of what would be the carcass there. And just the total girth. But even without that, I was just like, golly, that is just ridiculous. And we could sit here and talk about it all night, but the thing is, it's just like, there's just moments that you in your life, things that you'll see, times. For me, I think about like just times I've had with my wife. Like when we got engaged, I proposed out by one of the bridges on Fork, and I had actually written, Kaylee, will you marry me? On the bridge previous to her going out with me that afternoon. And I was just like, it was in the hot summer. There was nobody on the lakes. Nobody likes fishing in the hot summer.
I was fixing to say, what
In
if another old
Texas.
boy had Kaylee out there with him? Like another
Yeah, that'd be
Kaylee.
a
You
good
had
one.
luck.
Sorry, man. I didn't know you were about to dump her. No, but it was just one of those moments where like nobody was there, nobody's around, nobody saw it, and it was just like, that's one moment that like only I and her, she and I will have, and it's just same thing here at elk camp. Like, we're just getting back to peach by this fire. Nobody knows what that means, but it's these four guys right here. So I really appreciate moments like that you can't get on an Instagram story.
Yeah.
Another thing is kind of like what KC said. It's just so much different than getting off work early enough and then rushing to the whitetail woods. Like you come up here, it's laid back. You're working hard, but it's still laid back at the same time. And just one of the most awesome things about it is you're on the side of the mountain. There's really not, you can't hear. You get back off in there, you don't hear roads, you don't hear none of that, and you're up here for whatever time frame that you designate yourself, and all you got to worry about is having fun and hunting, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good life right there if you can keep that going several
Right.
times a year.
Man. Mountain man style, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to do. I tell you, one of the greatest parts about this whole thing is that, you burn enough calories that you can just come home and pig out at
Yeah.
camp. It doesn't even matter. Just
Yeah.
eat as much as you can.
Yeah.
I know one thing. I've always heard people talk about packing out elk, and I want everybody to really grasp how big of a thing it is. Brennan shot that elk at 9:20 yesterday morning. I know we had a little break for supper, but they got back with the last load of meat at 2 a.m. the next morning. So, it took us 3.5 hours to get him quartered. Of course, he was a nice elk, so Brennan wants to shoulder mount him. So, of course, that takes some time, tubing the hide up around his head and having to save all that. But, man, just getting the quarters off of him, getting the back straps out, getting everything put in your game bags and laid out. We had logs set out to keep the meat off the ground and to let the air get to it. And, we get done and sit down, and we didn't even tell this part of the story. We get down and get everything bagged up and almost ready to leave out with the first load and break our sandwiches out for lunch. And it was already 1:30. We'd already been 3 hours in on this elk and take 2 bites out of a sandwich, and all of a sudden we hear a bugle coming out of the canyon.
Oh, man.
So, of course, then we're getting set up and calling again, and thinking about, we just spent 3.5 hours cleaning on this elk, getting him colored up, and we're trying to do it again.
Yeah.
So,
It would have definitely been worth it.
yeah. So it's just you don't realize how much hard work that it is, but we just kept thinking about, tonight we're going to be done and we'll be sitting in the fire talking about it. So we just got to keep pushing, But
Mm-hmm.
but it's really a humbling experience, it's a lot of hard work.
There's
but
something that I've kind of come to say every once in a while to my wife about, when I tell her about these trips we take and how, like, for me, a vacation is not going relaxing. It's going and working my butt off somewhere, out in the woods and doing some kind of crazy trip or whatever. And the saying that I always say is there's solace in the struggle. And for some reason, for me, like, when you have those hard pack outs or whatever, like, yeah, it's a struggle fest, the whole time. But then as soon as you're done, like, the feeling of accomplishment and, a job well done it's something about it just is calming and stress relieving, and it just feels so good to have gone through those, pretty much self-induced hardships, but still, make it through and come out with something great. There's just nothing better.
Yeah.
Brendan's got an amber stuck in his shoe.
I've been trying to keep them out of my boots over here.
Dude, they're dangerous. I had one land in my lap yesterday while those guys were
You
here.
almost had a Western experience there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick, one of the Ricks. If you're listening out there, appreciate you not reaching down and grabbing that spark off my lap.
Oh man, this old blue spruce is pretty poppy.
Yeah.
In the fire.
I'll tell you one thing, if we're trying to inspire anybody out there, Casey and I are kind of just bums, really. Like we just try to work when we feel like it and get by, and not really, probably make as much money as our wives would like us to. But Brendan and Matt are just hardworking dudes, and there's, you know them, you are them. If you're listening out there, like these are dudes that are good people, work hard, and try to set their priorities straight. And they're out here doing this. This isn't, the Vermejo Ranch. You don't have to pony up, several thousands of dollars to go on these hunts. You can do, you can do this thing on a budget, and obviously at some point, where is that budget set, and how much does something mean to you? But you see the experience that they're having on their first trip because they worked hard, during the week, and then also on the weekends they shoot the heck out of their bow, and they prepare and they think about it and they try to understand. They come up here with a good attitude and learn quickly, because they know that they don't know much, just like most of us, pretty much all of us. We're all new, Casey has the most experience of any of us, but
Most of that's just passed on from my, ancestors, my
Yeah.
dad and granddad. they know all the stuff. I just try to learn what they've already done as mistakes, and shoot, you can. I mean, you walked around with me in the woods today. You can tell that I'm no master of this by any means. I've just been here a couple of years,
and I'm learning
I can't
a
find
ton.
anything.
It's just my point is, just with the internet, especially, man, you can learn things so quickly, and if you're willing to just work hard and try to do something like this, you can really, like Brendan said, you can have a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And whether or not you kill an elk, that's not what is completely making a trip of a lifetime for you, is it? I mean, this moment right here where we're just toasty, got a good fire going, and we've been enjoying elk steaks and stuff like that, man, is just there's also a little bit of solace in just relaxing too.
I guarantee you.
At this point in the day, so.
Yeah,
But,
it is. Well, I want to tell y'all, and I mean this. This isn't just like a podcast wrap up or anything, but thanks for coming on this trip with me. It's quite the commitment to say, hey, 3 months from now I'm going to take off with you, and for 10 days we're going to hit the road and go do something. Go to the woods and be away from our families. And if you've ever tried to have hunting buddies out there, it's tough to like find somebody who will commit to go on a crazy trip that is going to cost a lot of money and might not have a lot of payout. So thank y'all for being willing to come up here and share camp and do something new, with me. And shoot, it took me about 7 years to talk Brennan into doing it, but he finally did. No,
babies and marriage, man.
Man, I tell
That's
you,
it,
keep
man.
having too many kiddos, it puts a damper on your hunting trips. But you took a 9-month break at least this time. So.
Yeah.
Well, you got to come once.
As far as you know.
As far as you know, you might get some news when you get home.
Well, y'all were working on a third name, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I can assure you that the wait was well worth it. I mean, I wish I could do it every year, but it was, with the schedule, and I'm sure there's going to be family vacations out there in the future, and I won't get to do it every year, but I'm sure going to try to make this happen more often.
It's good, man. It's good. I hope you do. I hope we get to share a camp many times throughout our lives.
It's been a great camp, man. It's hard to put 4 guys together sometimes that'll all try to take care of things and bring stuff, and so-and-so build the fire and so-and-so take care of the fire, and Matt eats your steak while Brennan cooks the steaks, and we'll switch after you eat your steak, and all these different things, man. It's been a great camp, man. I guess just to try to one-up KC, thank y'all for being good campmates, man.
Well, I appreciate the invite.
Oh, yeah, so do I.
Yeah, no problem, guys. It's been a blast, and we aren't even truly halfway through with this whole.
No, I was about to say,
there's
it's
a lot of hunting left.
just 3 days in, and if it gets any better, I don't know if I can stand it.
I know it, man. Goodness
We
gracious.
may have a
Heart
part 2.
can't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I swear, man, when that little spike was sitting there, I couldn't see its head, because it was behind a tree, but I could see that body. And I could not believe that 500-pound animal was 40 yards from us. We never heard him or anything. And man, my heart has not beat that fast in a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Something about that just sneaking up on you like that, just not knowing that animal's there until it's like on top of you, just, whew, it gets me going crazy.
mm-hmm.
But,
Well,
to leave y'all, I guess we're going to kind of wrap this up. My legs are getting toasty against this fire again.
man, it's finally gotten
That's
where
too
it's
much.
burning,
Yeah, dude, you've been putting a stick on there about every 10
I
seconds.
know, it's finally, it's like stable now. It's not
Tyler.
just burning through.
Tyler the Tender Man. But just a little something about
I like being Peach.
the selflessness of our 2 campmates here, Brennan and Matt. Brennan and Matt were out hunting that second morning, and that bull came in, and Matt's story leads with, he said, Brennan, get your bow. He wasn't like, hey, where's my bow or whatever. It was, hey, Brennan, you're going to kill this elk. And then that transpired. And then while Matt was here, I'm sure, wishing us well while while we were out getting our last
Yeah, I was.
our last pack out. Brennan, the kind of the rite of passage is once you kill a bull is to carve your name in the tree with, however many points it had on it. Brennan was carving his name in the aspen, said, BR 6x6. What'd you say, September 17 or something like that. And he did it, and he looked at the tree and said, you know what, that's not right. I need to put Matt's name on there too because we killed this bull. It wasn't just me. So
It's definitely a team effort.
yeah, it is. And it's cool to see y'all work that way, and it's cool to just see how being selfless in this aspect and also in life can pay out for you. It works well whenever you're humble and you have other people's wants and needs in mind. So it's cool. Thank y'all for being such good dudes and hanging out with us.
Man, it's been a great camp. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I look forward to y'all helping us tomorrow with KC's 4x3.
Yeah, I know it. I can't wait, y'all. Well, we're going to pack out that rag so
Hey, my
hard.
knee's feeling pretty good, so I'm ready.
That's
Hey,
good.
man.
we got 4 days left. Let's put 2 more in camp.
There you go.
I'm thinking if we do that, I'm going to be fishing for brook trout pretty
Oh,
soon.
yeah,
so.
dude. That brook trout hole is calling my name. I got to kill the elk quick.
We're going to have to buy
Brennan-
more coolers.
Yeah. Brennan wouldn't let us stop and fish on the
I
way
know
up.
it.
So.
Golly.
Well, I
Party
said I got
pooper.
7
Hey,
days.
your
to
shoe's
elk
on fire again.
Holy
They want the
smokes.
soul.
Your
The
soul.
soul melted off.
You need to throw those away.
They were fixing to go anyway. These are just camp shoes.
Camp shoes.
Yeah,
There you go.
Well, that's a great place to wrap it up, man. I thank y'all for listening and hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed that story. Sometimes, the tactics are very helpful. I love listening to tactics and reading stories and articles about tactics and stuff. But man, the story of how it all transpired and just the whole camp experience, like we talked about, is definitely worth a podcast or two here every once in a while. So, thank you guys for listening. If we end up tagging another elk pretty soon, we might be doing podcast number 2 from the Colorado elk woods. So stay tuned, and we'll be seeing you soon. God bless you guys. Make sure to get out and live in your element every chance you get.